All right, let's get right into it. Picture this. It's 1787, and America is basically on the verge of falling apart. The government they have just isn't working, and the whole future of the country is hanging by a thread. And right into this mess step three guys: Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay, all writing under one pen name, Publius. What was their mission? Well, they had to convince a very skeptical public to approve a brand new and pretty radical constitution. And their tool for doing this was a series of absolutely brilliant essays that we now know as the Federalist Papers.
Hamilton kicks the whole thing off with this just monumental question. Seriously, think about what he's asking. He's not just saying, hey, can we Americans figure this out? He's asking if anybody can. Is it even possible for people to create a good government on purpose, through reason and choice? Or is humanity just doomed to be ruled by whoever is strongest, by random chance and brute force? The stakes, he's telling us, could not be any higher. This wasn't just some local American issue. This was a test for all of humanity.
So, first things first, Publius had to make everyone face a really difficult truth. The government they were living under, the Articles of Confederation, it was a disaster. It was on the brink of total collapse. As Hamilton puts it in Federalist No. 1, its inefficiency wasn't up for debate anymore. It was a painful reality people were living with every single day. The nation's very survival was literally on trial.
Okay, so once they've established that the system is broken, the authors pivot to the first huge danger facing a divided America: threats from the rest of the world. Their argument was pretty simple. If the states break apart into little, separate countries, they would become easy pickings for the powerful empires in Europe. Now, this is where John Jay's experience really shines. He'd been a top diplomat, so he knew exactly how the European powers played the game. In his essays, numbers 2 through 5, he paints this chilling picture. He says if America splits up, four nations would just play the states against each other, stirring up jealousy and conflict to keep them weak and easy to control.
And this chart just lays out Jay's argument perfectly. On one side, you've got a single, united nation. It speaks with one voice on foreign policy, has a strong, unified military, and commands respect. On the other side, total chaos. You'd have 13 little states with competing treaties, weak, separate militias, basically an open invitation for other countries to come in and mess things up. For Jay, the choice was crystal clear. You could either be a player on the world stage or you could be a pawn in someone else's game.
But, as scary as those foreign threats were, Hamilton then turns the focus inward. He makes this even more alarming argument that the biggest danger to Americans wouldn't come from Europe, but from each other. And this leads him to a pretty grim prediction.
Yeah, Hamilton had zero patience for what he called utopian speculations. He's basically saying, look at all of human history. It teaches us one thing very, very clearly. Neighbors fight. The idea that 13 separate American countries would just live together in peace forever was to him a complete fantasy. It ignored what he saw as the basic facts of human nature, that people are ambitious, vindictive, and rapacious.
And he wasn't just talking in hypotheticals. In Federalist No. 7, Hamilton gets super specific. He lists the real-world problems that he was sure would ignite wars. Things like, who gets control of all that land out west? What happens when a state with a big port, like New York, starts taxing all the goods going to its neighbors, like New Jersey and Connecticut? How in the world do you split up the massive debt from the Revolution? Every single one of these, he said, was a powder keg just waiting for a match.
So let's follow this train of thought. If Hamilton is right and the states are doomed to fight each other constantly, what does that future actually look like? What's the ultimate cost of breaking up the Union?
And here's the terrible paradox he points out. To stay safe from each other, the states would have to create large, permanent professional armies. And these standing armies were something the founding generation was terrified of. They saw them as the classic tools of tyranny. Sooner or later, those armies would threaten the liberty of the very people they were supposed to protect. It's a horrible trade-off. To be safe from your neighbors, you'd have to give up your own freedom.
This all leads us to the absolute intellectual core of the entire project. After laying out the dangers from the outside and the dangers from the inside, James Madison steps up. And in the legendary Federalist No. 10, he gets to the root of the problem, what he calls the ultimate disease of any government by the people, the danger of faction.
Madison's definition here is so precise. A faction isn't just a political party. It's any group of people. It could be a majority or a minority who are united by some passion or interest that is actively against the rights of other people or against the good of the whole community. Think about a mob of angry debtors getting together to pass a law that just erases all their debts. That's a faction.
Madison called this the mortal disease that had killed every single popular government in history. And Madison's reasoning here is it's beautiful. It's so logical. First, he says you can't get rid of factions because the reasons we form them, we have different opinions, different amounts of wealth, different interests. That's just part of being human. It's sown in the nature of man. Second, he says, well, the only way you could get rid of those causes is to destroy liberty itself. And that, he says, is a cure worse than the disease. So if you can't eliminate the cause of the problem, what's left? Your only option is to find a way to control its effects.
So that brings us to the grand finale, the solution. If the disease is faction, Madison proposes a powerful cure, what he calls the Republican remedy. And it was an idea that basically turned all the political wisdom of the time completely upside down.
See, back then, most famous political thinkers believed that republics could only work if they were really small and everyone was kind of the same. Madison comes along and says the exact opposite. Don't shrink the republic, he said. Make it bigger. Extend the sphere.
So how does that even work? Well, in a really big republic, you're going to have tons of different interests. You've got farmers, merchants, bankers, different religions, you name it. With all that diversity, it becomes much, much harder for any one group to team up and form a majority that can just steamroll everyone else. As Madison brilliantly puts it, a factious flame might start in one state, but the sheer size and diversity of the whole country acts like a firebreak, preventing it from spreading and becoming a general conflagration.
And that's what brings the whole argument full circle. The Constitution wasn't just a boring legal document. It was the practical tool they designed to build this large, stable republic. It was the entire structure meant to protect against foreign enemies, prevent wars between the states, and, most importantly, to control the destructive power of faction. It was their plan to secure liberty, not just for a few years, but for generations to come.
So, the Federalist Papers diagnosed the dangers facing a free country and offered a really bold solution. And, their argument won. They got the Constitution ratified. But Madison's big idea leaves us with a question that feels just as urgent today as it did way back in 1787. In our modern world, with instant communication and deep, passionate political divides, is the cure that he proposed, a large, diverse republic, still strong enough to handle the mischiefs of faction? That's something worth thinking about.